Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Nacho Show. Go Woke and Go Broke is the title of this episode, ladies and gentlemen. Disney, which formed part of our childhood lives for most of us, has taken a radical move against morality. The current Disney CEO, Bob Chapek, or I don't know how you pronounce that, wants to impulse this type of nonsense to our children from kindergarten to third grade. And even though talking about homosexuality to an 8-year-old is bad in itself, what do you think? This and more here at The Nacho Show. Oh my gosh, I love salsa music. What do you guys think? Well, welcome again to the Nacho Show. This is Ignacio Valdez here from the beautiful Ogden, Utah. And I just wanted to mention that this show is being sponsored by Solidify Web. Let's build a website for you today. Also, another sponsor that we have is Nacho Graphics. Nacho Graphics brings the most beautiful graphics for you and your business. All right, and go woke and go broke. That's the title of this episode today, and we have with us my dear friend Cari Bartholomew. How are you, Cari?
I'm great, thanks.
Excellent. All right. Well, I found Carrie to be super charismatic and very serious and passionate about what she does, and that's the reasons why I brought her to this show, and she is going to talk to us more about this situation that I mean, it's got me very concerned because growing up I watched my Disney shows and everything like that, and I felt very very, very inspired, and I still do feel inspired about Disney, because all of the things that he was able to accomplish during his career, and how he started his business, because I'm an entrepreneur as well, and obviously, well, the sponsors, so and yeah, it just saddens me beyond belief, how Disney, they just want to throw a perverted, and I'm going to say perverted because that's what it should be called, perverted curveball towards society. And when we have Carrie here, how you doing, Carrie, today?
I'm great, and I'm super excited to talk about Disney. I have some very specific thoughts on that.
Excellent, Carrie. Okay, great. Well, before we move forward, I just wanted to kind of read an article, and I will go ahead and share this with you guys. This article is from, let me see, it is from the World Network News. I think that's what it is, and it talks a little bit, on how these guys really are fighting for against morality. So Disney current CEO Bob Chapek found himself in a pinch when a powerful group of his LGBTQ employees complained that the company had not put itself on the line in opposition to the Parental Rights in Education bill, now signed into law in Florida. He sought to placate these employees and the activists who supported them with corporate contributions to LGBTQ organizations and public messaging against the Florida bill. Clearly, Chapek misread the situation, and it is hard to see how he survives the aftermath. The LGBTQ movement does not want progress, it demands surrender. Well, I guess that says everything, right? They they want all or nothing.
Right? Yeah. What I found about all of these kind of activist groups is that there's no compromise, and it's funny because a lot of conservatives, especially right now as we're in election season, a lot of conservatives are like, "Oh, we need to be the peacemakers. We need to reach across the lines."
Oh,
You can't reach
mhm.
across the line when your worldview is Judeo-Christian, even if you're not religious, your worldview is treat others as you want to be treated, and that's what you're expecting from them. And their worldview is there is no truth but power. Everywhere we
Uh-huh.
turn, we're seeing people say, um, that we're just seeing people out and out lie. There is no CRT in schools. However, we're super excited about bringing it in. This bill in Florida, they're calling it the "Don't Say Gay" bill, and there's nowhere in the
Uh-huh.
entire thing that it says "Don't say gay." Instead, it says "Don't talk to kids from the ages of 5 to 3rd grade about your sexuality or about transitioning or about anything about that." And guess what? I work in a school, and our
Mhm.
children at that age, they don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, and they don't care, and they don't even understand what sex is, and they don't even understand. And when they see a homosexual couple, or or whatever, they say it's weird.
Yeah, some of them, and some of them are being taught to embrace it. What I saw that was very alarming yesterday was a principal, and it was just an online on Twitter thing, but a principal
Hmm.
was saying that we don't we have to rethink the age appropriateness, because if a child has a cell phone, they already know, and if they already know, it's our right to continue the conversation.
Uh-huh.
And it's just not. It is grooming our children. And as somebody who grew up both as a foster child and then became a foster parent, there's certain things you could never ever say, because it would be leading children in a conversation and teaching them things that they did not need to know. And that was the state 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Now we have, you know, I'm going to be blunt here, but now we have books that talk about strap-ons and how to use them with 7th graders.
No way. That did you just see my eyes?
I just, I just said what you
Wow.
said. Yeah.
I cannot believe that those types of books are being shown in our schools.
In our schools, and our current president touted the glories of the book. So, this book is genderqueer. And it's the one that's got
Wow.
all sorts of people up in a huff about, how dare you burn books and you Nazi or whatever else. And you just go, nobody wants to burn the books. We want them in public libraries so that every child isn't exposed to them. If you are a parent who thinks that this is great for your kid, we live in a free country, hopefully still. So,
Yeah, no kidding.
but not for every child. And they don't check the books in the library. I've been a volunteer librarian. You just scan them, especially if it's that last minute and a kid just grabs whatever's there. And especially if the book is made to look like a comic book. Kids just they
Huh.
just grab it and go.
Very clever. Very clever. Yeah, gosh, I am just in disbelief. Every time I hear something dumb, off of the left, as far as that is concerned, it's definitely just beyond words and beyond belief, because they really want to push the weirdness and the abnormalities that they talk about to our children. And that's something. I mean, I'm a father, and I do have 3 kids, and they're small. And I just I'm blown away by things that can hurt them, and the atrocities that the left wants to do. And I just want to protect my children, and I feel responsible about that. And it's one of the yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Well, absolutely. And the thing is that this isn't new. We keep thinking we're under this mistaken idea that just because I was talking to She Van Fleet yesterday, and she talked about the frog in the pot, right? We're
Hmm.
at the boiling point. And what they did was, instead of going with this slow boil that we all accept, they turned it on high in 2020. They just turned it on high, and we're like, get out as fast as you can. But the reality is that this has been going on since the 1920s. There's been a goal to sexualize our children as early as possible.
Mm.
So we create a false autonomy in our kids. So we create this false, I'm a grown up, I'm mature, I can handle things, and we destroy that family unit.
Hmm.
Which is another thing going back to Disney with destroying our institutions, destroying those things that keep families. Like why do people go to Disneyland? They go for a family vacation. They go to build, you know, that family time in a quality way that will be remembered forever, right? But the sexualization, the queering of our children, because it's not just about LGBT, it's also heterosexual. We just want our kids thinking so
Hmm.
much about sex that all they ever think about is instant gratification, and they can't even survive in the real world. That's why we have these people on TikTok crying and throwing rocks and trying to handle life in society, and they look like toddlers.
Oh
Truly, they look
man.
like toddlers, you know. And we've society, big tech especially, has created a mental health crisis, and then they say they're the ones to fix it. That's strange.
Yeah, no kidding. And yeah, they say that they're the ones that can fix it, but they cannot fix anything. They cannot even fix their own emotions. They cannot fix, yeah, gosh, yeah, and anything whatsoever. So let me just to show. I just wanted to show you really quick a picture that I shared. Let me see, where is it? Oh, right here. I just wanted to show you this.
Oh,
This picture right here of the title up there says Woke Disney Lost and Found. All right, so whatever you lost, it's gonna be found there, at the front desk. And it shows, they have the fight parental rights in education, ask about our queer agenda. There's this guy with the rainbow, with the rainbow Mickey ears, and there's this kid that says, "I lost my innocence."
yeah.
Goodness, that this picture, it tore me apart. You know,
Yeah.
be-
Yeah. So
because
let me
the,
tell you.
go
Oh, go
ahead,
ahead.
go
Well, let
ahead.
me
Sorry.
tell you about my affection with Disney. Like I said, I was a foster child. When I was very, very young, I experienced all sorts of crazy, crazy, over the top abuse. Um, until I was 8, and I chose to put myself into the foster system. What kept me from being this bitter, resentful, angry human being was a love for Disney and a love for the old Nick at Night shows. The old Nick at Night shows showed me, like Donna Reed, that you could have a better life, that there was something better than gangs and all sorts of abuse out there. Um, and Disney taught me that no matter, I think it was Uchtdorf. Um, he's an LDS authority, and I think that it was Uchtdorf who did a women's presentation once on Disney princesses and on how they overcame through grace and joy and kindness. And that's kind of how I patterned my life. Literally, there are people who are like, "You're like a Disney princess," and um, there was something, just a universal truth about just having a dream and never letting anything get in the way of that dream of just goodness. So now we're taking that away. We're taking the goodness out of it. And I don't really care if you I'm not homophobic. To me, homophobic
Mhm.
means you're afraid, okay? I
Right.
don't want you influencing my children in a way that is anything less than wholesome while they're young enough to be wholesome, because eventually society will take that away from that. But taking that away from the pure innocence and goodness of young children, it is grooming. It is
Mhm.
absolutely grooming our children, but it's also destroying something precious that they only have for a short time.
Yeah. I mean, um, yeah, I really don't know what these guys are, thinking about defending this and this nonsense, because it's very dangerous. And another thing that I was going to say, I mean, it is perverted. It is, but they think it's human rights. What the heck is about human? There's nothing human rights about this.
Yeah, the right should be that everybody can go. The right should be that everybody is kind there, that there is a certain level of tolerance, but that tolerance doesn't have to be. One of the things I think about a lot is that phrase that you see everywhere: be kind, be kind, be kind, be kind, be kind, be kind. And I think they should just add dot, 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 or else. Be kind or else. Be kind in our way or else. Diversity, equity, and inclusion only in the direction that we want you to have it in. And where does this come from? It comes from a goal to destroy our society. So ultimately, that's these people are speaking and they're saying, we have systemic injustice. Everything is about systemic injustice, and it never stops. We have to constantly create this revolutionary energy where we're never ever happy. In fact, the people who started this, or one of the persons who started this, was Herbert Marcuse, and he literally teaches
Mhm.
people that that to be happy is false. To be content in your faith, or to be content in your life as a middle class person who goes to work and earns and provides for your family, that's false. That is a false sense of happiness, and the only true happiness is getting rid of everything that we hold dear.
Absolutely. And gosh, well, as far as the left is concerned, I mean, and you mentioned something very very interesting, like systematic racism. That's what the left proclaim. And I'm going to tell you one thing: the system that has been built in the United States of America, and this I have actually talked about in other episodes. The system of the United States of America has been built so everybody can be successful in their own lives. Another thing is that, like I said, I'm an entrepreneur, and guess what? I'm Hispanic. I was born and raised in Mexico. I came here in 2003,
Wow.
and oh my gosh, the system has worked for me. It
Yeah.
has worked for me. And so the system works for anybody that wants to be successful, no matter if you are white, brown, black, mixture. It doesn't matter. It doesn't even matter. The United States of America's system was built just like God intended it to be, just the same way that He created the earth. If you till the earth, if you plant a seed into the earth doesn't care what race you are. It will grow for you. If you plant it, you feed it, you fertilize it, you put water on it, it will work for you. And guess what? The seed does not care what color you are. So don't give me that crap that the system has been built only to benefit whites. Come on. Are you serious?
Well, I think that I'll take a slightly different stance on that. I do believe in systemic racism. What I believe systemic racism is, like, the most systemic institution that we have is
Mm-hmm.
the Department of Education. This
Okay.
department that walks in and tells your children, or my child, who I'm biracial, my son is second generation biracial, and who tells
Uh-huh.
them that they are somehow less. When these kids don't believe that, these kids come into school going, "I'm gonna be Superman," and say, "Yes, Johnny, you are, but no, Shaniqua, you're not." So
Uh,
when the teachers are the ones, and now with this SEL through a transformative lens, when we're really going to root out systemic racism by teaching our children all of the problems with America, by teaching our children that they cannot succeed unless white people lower their standards. What an insult to those of us of
yeah.
color who have been like, no way, we totally can succeed. We totally have succeeded. And instead, they want to constantly tell us. This is the most frustrating thing to me with the queering of our children, going back to that,
Mm-hmm.
and with racism, because they preyed on the African American community for decades. They preyed on them, and they taught them that they cannot do for themselves. And
Wow.
now that new energy is with the trans population, teaching them that we must live, or even like the furries, right? The same
Oh my
thing,
gosh.
the same kind of thing where they are preying on our children and teaching them that they must be victims. There's nothing more systemically racist than convincing a person that they cannot do for themselves and that they are permanent victims. I've had people who've gotten on my own channel and said, "How dare you try to teach us that we have free will?" Who taught
Wow.
a person that they don't have free will? And how can those people, like Becky Pringle of the National Education Association, how can those people be in charge of what our children are learning today? They are sowing division, they are sowing hatred, they are sowing constant resentment. If you are a bitter person, that feeds into mental health issues. It does.
Hmm.
And so everybody's like, "Oh, we need to do this to protect mental health." I had somebody stop by my house who's running for an office, and he said, "You know what our kids are concerned, what our parents are concerned about is, can our kids do math? Can they write? And are they going to kill themselves?" And I thought, well, that's a lie. I work in a school. Most children are not thinking about killing themselves, unless maybe they have a cell phone and their parents aren't taking a look, and they're watching people who are suicidal talking about the ways that they can kill themselves. But most kids, it's not what they're thinking about. They might be thinking about a video game. They might be thinking about going outside and playing with their puppy. They're constantly thinking about
Right.
suicide until we tell them these are all the things that are wrong with life.
Wow. Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned something, very, very delicate there. Uh, the suicide thing, and yeah, I mean, it is definitely something that, um, well, something that the left has actually put on our face is that, that there's, high numbers of, teenagers that commit suicide. But I mean, think about it, in the other way. I mean, there's so many teenagers out there that don't want to commit suicide. I mean, even though, I mean, me growing up, I was exposed to all of the media, and the gangster rap, and you know what I'm saying, and like this, the stereotypes. So I was exposed to, and I listened to all the music, from Snoop Dogg to NWA, and all of, oh my gosh, I already gave up myself here. But think about it, the words that they used, and the sentences that they used and things like that. I never thought about committing suicide myself. I mean, and it's just about who they are. I mean, if they're just trying to bring a very small percentage of what's wrong and what needs help, they're making it just way too big,
Well,
for
the other
everybody
thing is
else.
that they're not bringing solutions to the table. They're
Exactly.
they're hyper expanding the solution instead of saying, "You know what? Do you know what's gonna make a kid not wanna commit suicide? If you teach a kid, if you empower a kid." How do you empower somebody? You show them that they're capable. So if
Exactly.
you have mentors in their lives, or parents that are super involved, kids are less likely to lean in these directions. We, instead of saying, we need to raise the bar and instill in every single child that they can succeed and provide on an individual basis what the child needs, as opposed to say, "Oh, well, you're black or you're brown, so you need this extra assistance," when they could be the
Mhm.
smartest child in the class. It is so racist to assume that a minority cannot be the smartest child in the class, or even that that minority must be an Asian. So racist to think these things, right? So my huge whatever platform, whatever it is that my activism
Mhm.
is about bringing solutions. And I think those solutions come by, getting kids to read books that are empowering. Instead, our schools are bringing in books like locally, and I live in Nebo. I mean, I live in, like, quote unquote the most conservative area. And there's a
Mhm.
teacher who is forcing children. they have a book club, and you have to choose an LGBTQ book, a book about drug addiction, a book about racial oppression. You have to choose one of those
Wow.
books as seventh graders and talk about them amongst yourselves and what's wrong, and also, and this is the part that kind of creeps me out, also these are their points of intersectionality. So these are the points of which do they fit into these categories. And when you don't, when you are gay and identify as a Christian, you get bullied. People tell you, well, then you're
Hmm.
not really gay because of, for this reason or that reason. So like you get bullied for not fitting into it. I cannot tell you how many people on social media like to call me a white supremacist and like try to dismiss everything about who I am and the experiences that I have in life. And I know that I'm
Hmm.
white enough that I pass for a lot of things, but I don't pass for white,
Hmm.
and 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 it's like you can't erase all of the experiences. You can't erase that I do fit so many of the stereotypes of what happened to African
Yeah.
Americans 1 and 3. Um, you can't erase that stuff, but yet they want to market our marginalization, and
Yeah.
is not that's not a pro-American way to be. That's not why people risk their lives to come here. You know, like
Hmm.
we're supposed to be about unity. We're supposed to be better than this, and we were better than this. That's probably the hardest part about this, is because I never wanted to be some sort of an activist. I wanted
Hmm.
to raise my child and teach drama and just like, you know, live and love and be comfortable and confident in who I am. And
Hmm.
I'm fighting a new civil rights movement with like the most extremely racist people all the way up into our Congress, when they won't let people speak who think like I do because we don't represent diversity.
Hmm.
And it's like, so you don't want diversity of thought,
Right.
to lockstep.
Right, definitely. And God, it just there are so many thoughts that come to my head. But let's go ahead and take a small break here. I will go ahead and bring out our sponsors. So remember, guys, this show is being sponsored to you by Solidify Web. Let's build the website for you today. And also Natural Graphics. We will build a fantastic atmosphere for you and your business, and also securevoteutah.org. Please look at the information about keeping our state free and corruptless at securevoteutah.org. It is a fantastic initiative to keep our voting secure whenever we go on the ballot. All right, well, we are back here, and that was pretty quick. Just wanted to bring that up. But anyway, yeah, you mentioned something super interesting, Cari. Now, let's go ahead and move on a little bit here. You recently were at a PBS interview. I think it was kind of like a round conversation with other gentlemen. Can you elaborate more about this, and what was that interview about?
It's crazy. First off, I've only been in Utah for a year. Um,
Hmm.
and originally they wanted Burgess Owens and Mia Love in the conversation,
Hmm.
but that could have been disastrous considering that one
Yeah.
person, took the other person's job. But so so this group is called Roots, Race, and Culture. And they wanted the perspectives of conservatives, and they said that we feel that there's going to be a shift where a lot of Black people specifically are going to be moving towards becoming conservative, and we want to understand why. So James Evans, former I want to say former head of the GOP for Utah,
Yeah.
chair.
Correct.
um, Okay. And myself were asked to be on it. And even the two of us had very different viewpoints. Like, he is a quote unquote Republican, capital R, um, very focused on the financial aspects. And I am a conservative, capital P, for populist. I'm a populist. I'm watching middle class be attacked by Marxism, and they're using
Hmm.
race to do it. But in watching this, watching the, like I said before, the dreams that we have to just have that American dream, just to be normal people and able to proceed in life and not have to be identified by the color of our skin and not have to worry about the things that we've built being taken away by the entitled. Um,
Hmm.
this is why I'm conservative. So I think the left, quite frankly, is extremely racist. The most like hideously overtly racist, but
Yeah.
unfortunately they've been brainwashed for so long that
Hmm.
they do not see it. I mean, they're
And
it's
that's what surprises me a lot. Like they can be so they can tell people that blacks don't have an ID, or they don't have access to an ID, and blacks still love wokeness. And there's a there's still I'm not generalizing, of course, because
no, no,
we
no.
have fantastic people that are black, and they're very conservative. So I
Well,
don't
even not
understand.
the conservatives. I'm sorry, I'm gonna just interrupt here because even not the conservatives, what I'm seeing a lot of is black people with common sense who go, man can't be a woman. No. And they're Democrats. And they're just like
Hmm.
that. I'm gonna take issue. I'm gonna take issue with flat out being lied to. So
Yeah.
I don't know that they love wokeness, but they do believe that the Democrats take care of them. And
Yeah.
I just wonder where. I'm like, where? Every place the Democrats touch, again, coming from Seattle, is a freaking disaster. Our kids are
Hmm.
not excelling. Our grades, they're abysmal in general, but for Black and Hispanic kids,
Hmm.
it's far, far worse. And part of that is accepting that from them.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
I teach at a charter school, and we break up into groups. We break up into 13 different classes so that
Mm.
every kid gets to excel in math or in math or reading at their own level. So you might have a first grader doing math with third graders, right? What we don't do, and this, sorry, I know I talk a lot, but
That's fine.
so I just did a conversation with social workers at one of our local schools. I was their guest speaker, and one of the people said, "Wait, can I ask you a question? Well, how do I grade papers without considering race?" Let that sink in for a second. Okay. I sat there and I was like, um, you follow a rubric. You follow a rubric and you see, did this kid hit this? Did this kid hit this point, this point, this point? Okay. And the person, a young person said, maybe if I erase their names. You talk
Wow.
about some racist people being
Wow.
indoctrinated, young people, college age kids that are going to go into our schools with this idea of I must evaluate all of my biases all the time. And another kid who said, "Thank you for speaking and sharing like your story." Like there's something called the ACEs, which is a lot of how they do social and
Hmm.
emotional learning. ACEs is adverse childhood effects of trauma. You can be up to a 10. I'm a 9 on that scale. This person said, "Thank you for sharing that," because, and he was a white male, and he goes, "I'm an 8 on that scale. And I have to be honest, I felt like I didn't have a place to talk for the last 2 years at all." And he's like, "And now I'm going to start saying what I think because, and it's sad, but because a black person gave me permission to do so." What the
Wow.
insanity?
No kidding.
It's complete insanity. And speaking of insanity, this is another point.
Uh-huh.
Taking schools, okay, there's a situation. Kids are identifying as animals. They're
As,
identifying as animals. I'm not talking about the people who think it's cute to dress up as some anime figure. I'm talking
uh-huh.
about kids identifying as animals. So locally, we have a little girl who identified as a fish, and she makes fish faces, and she blows spit bubbles. She blows spit bubbles at other students. And the students are told, get this, the students are told that they cannot react. You cannot react to somebody blowing spit bubbles in your face. So
Wow.
what we're doing with that is teaching our kids to accept insanity in the name of compassion. And that's why I come back to there's nothing more systemically ismed than our schools. Because if they're teaching these kids to do that, they're teaching our kids to live in a world that's not real.
Wow. And yeah, speaking about things that are not real, we do have Mr. Zuckerberg creating a non-real world where you can purchase land, you can purchase property there, and he's making a lot of money. But oh, surprise, surprise, there's a world that has already been invented as far as that is concerned. So and we have Microsoft. So yeah, Mark Zuckerberg is definitely um, losing a lot of money, for inventing that type of thing. And just like you said, they can liberals or leftards, how I call them, or libtards.
I call
They,
them
woke-tard. they can only brainwash so much. They do have a limit. And I really want, and we know how to show them what the limit would be. So so yeah, in that regard, then yeah, it's definitely something that um yeah, that can definitely be eradicated, if we are smart. We are smart, but we need to really hit in the right spots, to eradicate these problems. So
but no
um
Disneyland. No more
yeah.
Disneyland. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it saddens me because I'm gonna be honest. I went on a Disney cruise recently. It was definitely fun. It was fun. My children were fantastic. But yeah, I saw a couple of things that really made me super sad. Like, there were certain individuals that had their pins, the rainbow pins and things like that. Um, so yeah, and like I don't know, it has always been my dream to go to Disneyland, when I was a kid. And now that I have the money to go, now that I can go to even to Disney cruise. And yeah, it's like now they're coming, you know firing back, and talking about stupid things. And I'm sure Disney, Mr. Disney, is definitely rolling on his grave right now. And he was super patriotic. Mr.
Yeah.
Disney was super patriotic, and he did everything around loving the United States of America as the greatest country in the world. And he always talked about that. But now that he's been, this thing has been captured by the leftards, or libtards, how I call them. And I don't freaking care. This is my show. I say whatever I want. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I
now.
think what it comes down to is we just need to stop. We can't live by lies, and that's the thing, is that when we support these things, even when I go into Mod Pizza and they're wearing social justice shirts, I've turned around and walked out. McDonald's supporting Ibram X. Kendi. I haven't eaten a Big Mac in 2 years because
Mm.
it does not support my values, and you didn't need to do that.
And it doesn't support your health too.
It doesn't support my health, but I find other places to go that don't either. But it is getting harder and harder and harder. And part of that I think we have to remember, like, I know somebody who owns a McDonald's, and they're not woke at all. They have to do what they have to do in order to keep, like, their ESG score, right?
Uh-huh.
And there's a point where for me, I look at what they're doing and I go, all right, are they shoving it down my throat? Are they doing what they have to do to be able to survive? And either one isn't great, but I definitely feel better virtue signaling if people are if they're not shoving it down my throat. If I walk in and it's like, welcome to Woke How can we help you? I'm like, I'm out of here. So, and I will tell them flat out, yeah, I don't know why we have to have politics in business. All I wanted to do was buy a sandwich, you know? Um,
Exactly.
ultimately, people need to commit to living not by lies. And when the lies come, don't say, oh, well, as long as I put my head down, it'll go over me, because it's not just going to come, it's not going to cross over you. We are tolerating something right now. They're teaching us to tolerate, and eventually we will not have a choice. There's so many immigrants who talk about everything that they're seeing here and going, I came here because I wanted something better than I had in my home country. And all I see is the same things from my home country, especially Asians and Europeans. All I see is America becoming everything that I saw and worse.
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, definitely. Those were exactly my thoughts right there. And it's something that I always mention in my podcasts is that, yeah, I mean, I, I'm an immigrant. I came here, for the same exact reasons. In order for me to enjoy better freedoms, to enjoy better politics, and to run away from those dumb politics. But apparently, it is chasing me around, and I don't want to go anywhere else. I want to stay here. I don't want to run to Canada. I mean, even though it's a very beautiful country, I mean, I visited Canada and it's fantastic, but
It
it's
would be
not the
worse.
same.
Canada is pretty liberal, but there's also something worth pointing out. As minorities, there's lots of places people say America is so racist, but I've been to countries where I look like the locals, and I've seen how the locals
Mm,
get treated. So just people just don't even know what we have here, because here
yeah.
at least we have rights. There in certain countries, it's like other people are like, oh well, I guess I'll just have to go to Uruguay or someplace else, and I'm like, I wouldn't be welcome there. There's
Mhm.
no place for us to go if you take away our safe shelter that is this country.
Correct. Yeah, that is definitely correct. And we do have infamous people that really want to destroy the United States of America, and they want to destroy the culture that we came for. The culture that we adopted. Me as an immigrant, I adopted this culture, and I have been made fun of because I'm adopting this culture. And I mean,
Oh, yeah, right.
because yeah, and because you see this flag right here. I love it. It is my flag, and I respect it, and I honor it, and I will fight for my life for it as well. And I remember when I went through the citizenship swearing. I went, before a judge and the Lord, as I, consider it, is that I will defend the Constitution of the United States of America. So help me God, against domestic and foreign enemies. And we have those domestic enemies, and I'm going to keep fighting against those enemies. And I will be with you shoulder to shoulder, Cari, to fight against those enemies. It is our responsibility as Americans, and everybody that's watching this show right now. I encourage you to run for office. We cannot have these insanities anymore in our country. We need to keep fighting. We need to keep going for it. We need to keep teaching our children what's right. We don't want to teach our kids insanities. We don't want to keep these fallacies. We want to keep out every single thing that is not from our culture. Of course, the United States of America has been built with great support from God and very inspired leaders. But now our leaders have been changed, and the devil and Satan has taken power over them, even in our state of Utah. Our current governor is weak, and we cannot be comfortable anymore about voting Republican. We really need to get very involved. Get involved, run for office, really look into the eyes of those that you are electing locally. Because if you do that, then we will be able to have good leaders. Not the garbage that we see currently right now. And I'm gonna name it Cox. I'm gonna name it. I'm gonna put a name onto
So
it.
aptly named.
Romney. Yeah, yeah. And because I'm a citizen and I live here.
Yeah.
And how am I going to advocate for a leader that's weak, that doesn't stand up for us?
We
You
fled
know,
here. We fled here from Washington because Washington is a dumpster fire. And the first thing that I saw, well, the first thing I saw was Cox bow to Jill Biden. Very, it was still COVID, so I'm sure he just didn't want to shake her hand, and that's what he chose to do. And I just thought, we don't bow to others in America. We don't have kings. We don't have queens. What are we doing? So I thought that was strange. And then he didn't stand against CRT. He didn't stand against critical race theory.
wow,
And to find out that that's his wife's platform is social and emotional learning from Cassell, that literally points out that that we should be teaching our children. This was yesterday, that we should be teaching our children to be like Che Guevara or no. I mean, and you just sit there going, how
wow,
where is this coming from? We're talking dictators here. So what are socialist communists, right? And they proudly tout that that's what they want to teach to our children, and that they want to teach them that you can't really have social and emotional learning without having an activist bent to it. I was jumped by BLM in Washington for carrying
wow.
a sign that said "Character Matters, Martin Luther King," and I was jumped by them. And
I'm sorry.
what are they? It's fine, but it's just like, what are they teaching our children? Because
No.
they're not teaching them that we're unified. And no other country goes around teaching that their country sucks in
Wow.
their schools. No other country does that. And America just doesn't suck. Most
Right.
people aren't racist. Most people do not. And if they are racist internally, if they have their own biases, they don't affect us. Whereas in Ukraine, they can kick African Americans off trains, but
Wow.
here, if you did that, you would have a lawsuit, right? so,
Yeah.
so you just sit there going, what are you doing? You need to teach appreciation. You can teach the good and the bad and the filthily ugly, but you also have to teach that it's good people in general, and being a good person still matters. It really does.
Mhm.
And that does not mean tolerating lies. It does not mean tolerating insanity. It means standing up and saying, no, I will not live by lies. This won't happen in my home. It won't happen in my schools. And it won't happen in my communities. I think we have
Agree.
to press roots in order to win.
Agree. Agree. And let's keep going. Well, thank you so much, Cari. I definitely appreciate you being here in this the Nacho Show, and we really hope to see you again here. Which, of course, you will. You will.
Well, thank you so much for having
And
me. I appreciate it.
yeah, you're very welcome. And thanks so much, everybody, for being here today. Remember, this is the Nacho Show, and we will see you next time.